Welcome back, Deep Divers. You guys sent in a ton of stuff on the Swiftie phenomenon.
A lot.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, you know, like okay, everyone does the Taylor Swift as like this huge global superstar, right?
Yeah.
But this stuff gets into like how it's something even bigger.
Yeah.
Like it's not just about the music.
Right.
You know, it's about like community and identity and like even this idea of like Taylor Swift as like some kind of leader.
Yeah, that's right. And the El Culto Swiftie article really just kind of takes that and runs with it.
Oh, okay.
They make some really interesting comparisons between her and like traditional religious figures.
Okay, lay it on me. I've got to hear this.
Well, so they point out that she's like incredibly open about her life, right? Like her experiences, heartbreaks and feuds, like career ups and downs, like everything.
Yeah.
And so by being so open about all of that stuff, it creates this kind of sense of shared experience with her fans.
Okay, so it's like she's not just singing about heartbreak, she's like lived it.
Yes.
And her fans feel that, like they feel that authenticity.
Exactly. And it's not just about relatability, even though that's definitely a huge part of it.
Yeah.
This piece argues that, you know, her being so open about her struggles, it gives her fans a way to like kind of process their own emotions.
Oh.
It's like she's offering them like a roadmap to healing through her music and like just her story, her narrative.
That's super interesting because that kind of ties into what one of the other articles was saying about her lyrics becoming like this shared language for her fans.
Right.
Have you ever felt that?
Okay.
Bit like with a musician, like you hear their words and it's like,
oh yeah,
whoa, that's exactly how I feel.
Totally. You
know, they're giving a voice to these feelings you didn't even know you had.
Oh, 100%. I think anyone who's ever connected to music on like that deeper level has experienced that. But with Taylor Swift, it does seem like it's really, really pronounced. Yeah. And this El Culto Swiftie piece, they take that even further and they're saying that connection, that shared language of emotion, like contributes to this sense of like collective healing within the fandom.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So we've got this like huge emotional connection between Taylor Swift and her fans.
Yeah.
But, and I'm a little hesitant to even bring this up, but this El Culto Swiftie article also uses the word cult to describe the fandom.
Yeah.
Is that going too far?
Well, it's definitely provocative, right? But I think it's really important to understand, like, the context here.
Okay.
They're not saying that Swifties are, you know, involved in something, like, dangerous or harmful.
Right.
It's more about identifying certain elements of the fandom that kind of mirror the structure and dynamics we often see in groups that have, you know, a strong centralized leadership.
Okay, all right. So break it down for me. What are we talking about? Like, what are these elements?
Well, think about it like this. You've got this, you know, strong sense of belonging, a shared identity, even their own language, right?
Yeah.
We talked about Swiftie speak.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course there are rituals.
Okay, yeah, the concerts, those are legendary.
Yeah.
Like thousands of people all singing along to every word, like all dressed up, like lights, the energy.
Yeah.
It's an experience. Have you ever been to one?
You know, I can't say I have.
Oh, okay.
But even reading the descriptions, it's clear that it's like more than just a music performance, you know?
Yeah.
They seem to function almost as like collective rituals.
Oh, wow.
Think about it like the symbols, the synchronized movements, the emotional intensity. It's like, it all kind of contributes to this feeling of like transcendence, of unity, similar to what people experience in like traditional religious gatherings.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just the concerts though, right? There's this whole layer of like decoding hidden messages.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the sources talk about how Swifties analyze everything, lyrics, videos, social media posts, all looking for these clues and hints about upcoming releases.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really taps into this, I think, like deep-seated human desire, right? Like this need to make sense of the world. We're drawn to patterns, to seeking meaning in things. And in a world that feels like chaotic and unpredictable.
Totally.
It's like, it's comforting to believe that there is some kind of hidden order, a plan.
So it's like they're not just listening to the music.
Right.
They're actively like participating in creating meaning around it.
Yes, exactly. It's a form of collaborative storytelling, you know, where like the fans and the artist are both contributing to this like larger narrative.
And these hidden messages, they're not always obvious, right?
Right.
Like I was reading about how fans are like dissecting everything, like colors, numbers, the way she holds her coffee cup in a photo. Is it really that deep?
I mean, whether or not she intentionally plants these, Easter eggs almost doesn't matter.
Okay.
Like, what matters is how the fans interpret them.
Right.
How they weave them into their understanding of her work and her world.
Yeah.
It speaks to their dedication, their creativity, their desire to feel connected to something bigger than themselves.
So we've got this like super passionate fan base.
Yeah.
This shared language of emotion, these elaborate rituals,
right?
This whole detective level, like search for these hidden messages.
Yeah.
Where does it all lead? Why is this fandom like so intense?
Well, a lot of the sources point to this recurring theme in her career that seems to resonate really deeply with the fans.
Okay.
The persecution and redemption narrative.
Okay, break that down for me. What do they mean, persecution and redemption?
So throughout her career, she's been involved in a bunch of these high-profile conflicts, right? Like feuds with other celebrities and battles with record labels and, public criticism.
Yeah.
And she often presents herself and is seen by her fans as like the underdog, the victim of these forces that are like beyond her control.
It's like that classic David and Goliath story. People love to root for the underdog.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when she ultimately triumphs over all these obstacles, whether it's, winning a Grammy or regaining control of her masters, it reinforces this whole narrative of redemption. It's like she gets knocked down, but she always comes back, like stronger than before.
And her fans see themselves as like part of that fight.
Yes.
Like they're in it with her.
Yeah.
Defending her against her enemies.
Exactly. And it's a powerful dynamic.
Yeah.
By aligning themselves with her and her struggles, they tap into this sense of purpose. Like they're fighting for something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
They become a part of a larger narrative, this collective effort to right wrongs and achieve justice.
This is getting really interesting. So we've got the emotional connection, the rituals, the hidden messages, and now this like underdog narrative that really seems to connect with fans.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's even more to this, right?
Oh, there is.
Like we're just getting started.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack here. And it involves like a deeper dive into the very nature of fandom itself.
Right.
Like how it's evolving in the digital age, what it reveals about this like human need for connection and belonging.
All right, deep divers. Looks like we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we continue our exploration of this whole Swiftie phenomenon and try to make sense of this, like, complex and fascinating world. So last time we were talking about how Taylor Swift's career often, like, plays out like a persecution and redemption narrative.
Right.
And it seems like her fans, the Swifties, like, they really connect with that.
Yeah, it's a theme that comes up over and over in the research you shared. And it's not just about, like, rooting for the underdog,
right,
although that's definitely a part of it. It's about connecting with this sense of like shared struggle.
So you're saying that fans see their own challenges like reflected in Taylor Swift's experiences?
Exactly. Think about it. She's been, publicly ridiculed, betrayed by friends and lovers, like battling these powerful industry figures. These are like universal themes.
Yeah.
And by her sharing her experiences so openly, it gives her fans this like framework for processing their own feelings, of hurt, of injustice, and ultimately resilience.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how this goes like way beyond just enjoying the music. It's almost like a shared emotional journey between her and her fans.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about, passively listening to her music either.
Right.
Remember we were talking about the Swiftie cause?
Yeah.
This idea that fans actually like actively participate in defending her, fighting for her rights, correcting any like perceived injustices against her.
It's like they're like knights in shining armor, protecting their queen.
Totally.
But it's not just blind loyalty. Like it's more complex than that.
You're right. It's not mindless devotion. There's this like sense of shared values at play. For example, a lot of the sources talked about how Taylor Swift has become more and more vocal about, political and social issues, particularly things related to like women's rights and LGBTQ plus equality.
Yeah.
And her fans have kind of followed suit, right?
Yeah.
Like mobilizing to support causes that align with her values.
So it's about more than just like defending Taylor Swift, the individual, right?
Right.
It's about supporting these causes that she like champions causes that her fans also believe in.
Exactly. It's about collective action that's driven by this like shared belief system. And it's incredibly effective. We've seen how Swifties have, mobilized to influence political campaigns and boycott companies and even change legislation.
Yeah.
It's a force to be reckoned with.
It's pretty amazing to think about, like, this whole fandom, this group of people united by their, shared love for Taylor Swift. They're capable of making real world change.
Yes.
But but it's not all serious activism, right?
Right.
Like, there's also that whole, like, playful side of fandom.
Yeah.
Like the obsession with finding those hidden messages.
Ah, yes, the Easter eggs. That's another aspect that kind of sets the Swiftie fandom apart. It's like they've created their own elaborate game, with her as like the mastermind, leaving these clues and puzzles for them to solve.
I got to admit, I'm a little curious about this. Like, what are some of the things they look for? Is it just like random symbols and stuff?
It's way more intricate than that. It's about like connecting these like seemingly random details across all of her different works. Like a specific color in a music video might link to a line in a song that was released years earlier. Or, like a random comment she makes in an interview might foreshadow an upcoming album title.
Wow.
It's incredibly detailed and complex.
It almost sounds like a literary analysis class.
Yeah.
But for pop music.
It's not that far off. Actually, several of the sources you sent compared the Swiftie fandom to like this massive collaborative research project.
Oh, wow.
There are these dedicated websites and forums and social media groups where fans like share their theories and debate interpretations and piece together clues.
So it's like a giant online puzzle that they're all solving together.
Precisely. And the act of solving that puzzle, of like deciphering those hidden messages, it strengthens the bond between them.
Right.
It creates the sense of shared knowledge, of belonging to this like exclusive group that understands the deeper meaning behind her work.
It's like they're in on a secret.
Yes.
That the rest of the world doesn't get.
Exactly.
And that feeling of being in the know, it's really powerful. Like,
it is.
It reinforces their sense of identity as Swifties.
Exactly. And it speaks to this like deeper human need for connection and belonging. We naturally kind of gravitate towards groups that share our interests and values.
Yeah.
And in the digital age, those groups can extend far beyond our physical location.
That's one of the things that's so fascinating to me about this whole Swiftie phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's this global community that's connected online.
Right.
And they're not just, passively consuming content. They're actively creating it, analyzing it, debating it.
It's a remarkable example of how technology has like transformed the nature of fandom. Social media platforms like Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram, those have become the primary spaces for Swifties to connect with each other and share theories and organize campaigns and even create their own art and music inspired by her.
So it's like the internet has provided the tools for this fandom to like flourish.
Yes.
In ways that wouldn't have been possible even like a decade ago.
Absolutely. It's enabled this level of interaction and collaboration and creative expression that's just, it's unprecedented in the history of fandom. And it raises these really interesting questions about the future of fandom in general.
Yeah, like, are we seeing the emergence of this like new kind of fandom? One that's more interactive, more participatory, more driven by technology?
That's a great question, and one that the sources we've been talking about really like grapple with.
Yeah.
The Swiftie phenomenon is this fascinating case study, but it's also a reflection of these larger trends that are shaping how we, connect and create and consume culture in this digital age.
So we've talked about the persecution and redemption narrative.
Yeah.
The Swiftie cause, the obsession with hidden messages.
Right.
And the role of technology in shaping this whole fandom. It's a lot to take in.
It is. And I think it's important to like step back for a moment and consider the larger implications of what we've been talking about.
Okay, so let's connect the dots here.
Okay.
Like what does this whole Swiftie phenomenon tell us about ourselves, about like the human condition?
At its core, it reveals this deep-seated human need for connection, for belonging, for meaning in a world that can feel really isolating and chaotic.
Yeah.
Fandoms like this provide a sense of of community and purpose and shared experience.
It's like finding your tribe.
Yes.
Your people in this like vast and sometimes overwhelming world.
Exactly. And it's not just about escaping reality either. Yeah. It's about creating a shared reality, a world where you feel understood, where your values are reflected, where you can contribute to something bigger than yourself.
This is starting to make a lot of sense, but it also raises some pretty important questions about the nature of fandom itself. Like, is this level of devotion healthy?
Yeah.
Is there a point where fandom crosses a line and becomes something, well, obsessive?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll explore more in depth in our final segment.
Okay.
So stay tuned, deep divers, as we delve into the potential downsides of intense fandom.
Okay.
And consider whether there's like a dark side to the seemingly bright and vibrant community.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Swiftie phenomenon, and things are about to get, well, a little complicated.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time exploring those positive aspects of this fandom, that sense of community and shared purpose, and even that creative energy that really fuels it.
Yeah.
But it's important to acknowledge that intense fandom, like anything else, can also have its downsides.
Yeah, and that's what I've kind of been thinking about this whole time, right?
Yeah.
It's great that people find connection and meaning and all that, but like, where's the line between, healthy enthusiasm and unhealthy obsession?
It's a valid concern, and a few of the sources that you sent in actually touched on this, particularly when it comes to this idea of parasocial relationships.
Parasocial relationships. Okay.
Yeah, these are basically like one-sided relationships where fans develop these really strong emotional attachments to celebrities that they don't actually know personally.
So it's like you feel like you know Taylor Swift.
Right.
Like she's your friend even though you've never met her.
Exactly. And to a certain extent, that's it's harmless.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes entertainment enjoyable, right?
Right.
But the research suggests that when these parasocial relationships become like too intense, it can actually impact mental health.
Oh, wow. Okay. How so?
Yeah.
Like, give me some specifics.
Well, for one thing, it can lead to these like unrealistic expectations.
Okay.
Like fans might start to believe that they truly understand the celebrity. They're projecting their own desires and fantasies onto them.
Right.
And when the celebrity inevitably behaves in a way that contradicts that idealized image, it can be like really jarring.
That makes sense. And it's easy to see how that could play out in the Swiftie fandom, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're analyzing every little detail of her life.
Right.
They're searching for clues and hidden messages. Like, it must be hard to separate the real person from like the persona,
It is. And when that line blurs, it can lead to like feelings of betrayal and disappointment and even like anger that's directed at the celebrity.
Right.
It's important to remember that celebrities, despite their, public personas, are human beings with their own, flaws and complexities.
It's easy to forget that they're just people.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like constantly bombarded with their, perfectly curated image online.
Exactly.
Speaking of online, there was another concern that was raised in some of the sources, something like echo chambers.
Yes, that's a significant concern within any fandom.
Yeah.
But particularly those that like thrive online. Echo chambers happen when people are only exposed to information and opinions that confirm what they already believe.
So in the context of Swifties, like, everyone in the online community is just agreeing with each other.
Right.
Like reinforcing the same ideas over and over again.
Precisely. And that can lead to like a really distorted perception of reality. It becomes hard to see other viewpoints. Yeah. To engage in critical thinking and in extreme cases, it can foster the sense of like us versus them.
Right. Yeah.
Where anyone who criticizes Taylor Swift or even just expresses a different opinion is seen as like an enemy.
Yeah, we've seen that play out online.
Oh yeah.
Like those pile-on attacks where fans swarm anyone who dares to say anything even slightly negative about their idol.
It can get really toxic.
Yeah.
And it's really important to remember that fandom, even at its healthiest, requires like a degree of of critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's great to feel passionate about something, to connect with others who share your interests. But it's equally important to maintain a sense of perspective, to be able to step back and like evaluate information objectively.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yes.
Like being enthusiastic without becoming, blindly devoted.
Right.
Like engaging with the community, but not getting sucked into an echo chamber.
Exactly. And it's important for fans to be aware of the potential for exploitation, both financial and emotional.
Okay.
We've seen instances where fans are pressured to buy expensive merchandise or attend these like exclusive events,
right?
Or even like donate money to support a cause in the name of their fandom.
That's a good point. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement, especially when you're, surrounded by all these other passionate fans.
Yes.
But it's important to remember that fandom should be a source of joy.
Yes.
Not a financial burden.
It should, and if it starts to feel like an obligation,
yeah.
If you feel pressured to spend money that you don't have, or if you feel like your emotional well-being is being negatively affected, that's a sign that something isn't right.
So what's the takeaway here? Are we saying that like intense fandom is inherently bad?
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's also a lot of good that can come from it.
I don't think it's about labeling fandom as good or bad.
Okay.
It's more about like understanding its complexities, recognizing that it can be both a source of great joy and a potential pathway to harm if it's not navigated carefully.
It's about being a mindful fan.
Yeah.
Like being aware of the potential downsides and setting boundaries and prioritizing your own well-being.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that fandom should never come at the expense of your, mental health or your financial stability or your relationships with the people in your real life.
So maybe the key is not to avoid fandom altogether, but to engage with it in a healthy and balanced way.
Exactly. Fandom at its best can be this really powerful force for good. It can connect people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Foster a sense of community, inspire creativity and activism.
Right.
But like any powerful force, it needs to be wielded responsibly with awareness and a healthy dose of critical thinking.
Well, deep divers, I think we've done it. We've explored the Swiftie phenomenon from all angles.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and everything in between.
I think so.
And hopefully we've given you some insights and perspectives to help you navigate the complex world of fandom, whatever your passion may be.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.